1998. At that time, I was very ignorant that I even had roots in Ewa. And because of our love for the limu that my grandfather taught me when I was 4 years old, taking out to the reef and falling through the reef because my legs were so small, and him chewing the limu kala and slapping it on my cuts and saying, "Hey boy, I'm going fishing." And you know what, you can survive, it makes you stronger. So when we did the Ewa Limu project to teach people how to handle the limu, my expertise is in Lapaauokekai or limu. I was taught 240 limus and their medicinal practices with other invertebrates and lao in the mountains and their antidotes. So what happened is when the first contested case that we did in First Circuit Court to stop Hoseko from dumping the road off the drainage water off of Papipi Road into the limu beds where Ted Farm's place was, we were able to convince the First Circuit Court that with our scientists and what we said, the long-term cumulative impacts on the heavy metals that come off from the street will directly affect our cultural practice in our medicinal limu and the invertebrates and the fish that we harvest there. And so the court sided with us and revoked the permit to build a drainage there. Now this is what caused the problem that we have today, because Hoseko never expected somebody in the community to step up. They never expected that the land that is presently used for the retaining dam to put all of this road water that runs off, so it strains through the sand, so all the heavy leads and metals will stay in the sand and the water will be purified going through there into the ocean to protect our limu. Hoseko did not appeal. They accepted the ruling, so it's closed. And, but they didn't expect that land to be taken offline because that land is worth tens of millions of dollars in unsold houses. This is the impetus for this plan that I have in my hand that they don't tell anybody about. Money, get the get. This is $20 million that this retaining dam is sitting on that they want. That is why they're taking Papipi Road out of service. They don't explain that to you because they don't want you to know that what they're proposing in their number 2 plan is to make an 1,800-foot ditch, 25 feet deep and 10 feet long, where your current Papipi Road is right now. Why? Because then they could use the retaining dam land that is currently being used out of service and put that ditch in service and sell $20 million worth of homes on that land. Now what's the problem? Big problem. Because with Stewart Engineering, I've got to regress here to give you some background with the EV and everything. When we did our second lawsuit against Hoseko for Kalo'i Gulch, as a Native Hawaiian practitioner, I got standing for that too. And what we said is, you know, I get nihao shells from all of this limu. They live off this limu out here, plus I use it for my medicine. And I was able to convince the hearing officer, and Keakua sent a monk seal that day when we went walking out, and Hoseko was trying to bury the monk seal, and showed them that this was a very important part of our Hawaiian cultural practice. They wanted to build a 500-foot concrete drain, take down the natural sandburns and the cat rock. And I said, no, you can't do that to our cultural practice. And the hearings officer, Dr. Maiki, sided with me and said, your scientists are wrong. I got the second best scientist from Florida in the world to come down and prove what I said would happen, that it would cause invasive species, that the runoff would cause siltation and kill that entire section in front of the Lions Club, Kulia Lions Club. And so Dr. Maiki agreed with me and said, no, you guys cannot put any of that water into this place. And what people don't know, by North-South Road, there's a huge retention dam right next where the Goodwill, Salvation Army is being built. That would have been taken down, and all the retaining dams would have been taken down had we lost. But they're up. That's why there was no brown water here when the big rain came, because our 2 lawsuits stopped them from dumping all that pilau water into our cultural practice. But for those 2 lawsuit cases, this place would have been gone. And the thing is, for our medicinal limu, they're still there. Okay, some of them go nai-nai every now and then, but they're still there. That's why I'm still fighting. Now, Dr. Maiki said something really interesting to me. He said, brother, you have to find out your genealogy for Ewa, which I was clueless. So I listened, okay? I listened and I did my genealogy. I was floored to find out that my grandfather and my father didn't know this genealogy, that Captain Meek, who had the 1,400 acres from Kamehameha III in 1839, the Big Tree Ranch at Honouliuli, was my 5 great-grandfather by blood. His eldest daughter, Eliza Meek, is my 4 great-grandmother, who had a son from Kamehameha III, my 3rd great-grandfather, which I didn't know, but he's in the will of Kamehameha III. And I was floored. This was never told to me. I go back to my eldest aunt, who is the 2nd great-granddaughter of Kamehameha III, and she says, oh yeah, our grandmother had a kapu, and she could never touch the ground. She was carried everywhere. Okay, so it was like, I didn't know this. So that propelled me to my next situation where I got the cultural descendancy for this area as a cultural descendant of the Iwi Kupuna that was found in 2001, January 5th, by the entrance Marina Channel, is my 5 great-grandmother. Her name is Kaomile Kahumanu Namahanakapu. And she is the true mother of Kamehameha III. Keopulani is his Hanai mother. And this ali'i nui was carrying a 5-inch Niho Palawa and a 6-inch Niho Palawa. And so I put my genealogy over 500 certified documents and will that took me 2.5 years, 6 days a week, at the archives, at Bishop Museum, finding, and land libraries, finding all this information that's certified and putting it in front of the Oahu Island Burial Council and SHPTI. So it's on YouTube and online that the first descendant of Kamehameha III is putting up documents to claim that for the Iwi Kupuna, my 6th great-grandmother. And I did a contested case in January 6 against Haseko Ewa Inc. because they broke into our family burial caves known as Waipouli. Under Honouliuli is not named Honouliuli because you have this beautiful vision of this gray water in Pearl Harbor. There's a lens beneath Honouliuli that comes down from Manakapu, okay? And it collects beneath the plains under 210 feet. And that water has eaten its way through in what is called a cave or karst, K-A-R-S-T system. And that's part of my cultural practice because in those caves called Waipouli is my family Iwi Kupuna. They're kings and queens of Ewa, and it's in the historical documents 1893 from the Hawaiian Historic Association about Mikahela Kekau Onohe, the 6th wife of Kamehameha II, his niece, who her husband was the last prince of Kauai from the Maweke Lakona line, which is my family line. And she buried him out here in the cave at Waipouli. It's all documented. Okay, so they found in 2004 October when they were drilling for the 2nd phase of the marina, they broke into our family Iwi cave with the water, took out a ki'i and some other funerary artifacts, plugged it up, and you know, with DLNR, it's like, oh, it's your land. There's no lineal claimants around, so you know, do what you want to do. Well, I'm in the middle of putting the lineal claimant for this area under the ali'i kupuna, and I haven't been struck down dead for saying any of this. And anybody who's Hawaiian knows you don't go around claiming to be of the highest ali'i and not get struck or not be able to sleep at night. You're dead, especially during pokane nights. So this is not something funny or something that is not serious, especially when you drop papers with SHPTI and OIBC, and it's been 15 months since I dropped the papers. And they're trying to stop me ever. In the OIBC, if you go on YouTube and you look at 7/13/2011, SHPTI has lied, they've tried to make deals, they've gone back on the deals, they've done everything. Now, The reason why I mentioned Shipti is Pua'alaiu, the administrative Shipti, worked for Communications Pacific, which basically helped out developers. And surprise, surprise, the developer and Shipti that's supposed to watch out for Hawaiian interests, they're watching out for the interests of the developer. Shipti, State Historic Preservations Division. They're tasked with Article 12, Section 7 to protect Hawaiian cultural practitioners. I'm a practitioner of the seaweed medicine. I'm also the kahu and keeper of our li'i bones and funerary objects for the underground caves and caverns, which go right underneath Ho'opili. So you cut off those caves. The ancient name for this area is Hale'olimo, the House of Limo. Why is it the House of Limo? It's because that nutrient-rich fresh water made the limo bloom incredible out here. So if you break, either by the rail who's putting 80-foot pylons down into the ground for that rail, or for Ho'opili project, you break into those karst or cave system, which there are several, you cut and kill our cultural practice here. And it's not dead. I have to tell you, it's not dead. How can I fight for no limo? Done. Pow. If there is no limo, what are you fighting for, Mr. Lee? Because it's not all dead and gone. I collect it on a regular basis. I take people down to show them the healing properties, family, and everything. Because if it's dead, there's no reason to continue, because it's dead, logically. Yes?
William Spiro coached me, and I told him about the practice. And William Spiro said, it's called progress. And I was floored when he said that. He was going to destroy all the limo and stuff for progress.
Well, see, I went to Oha, and we did the research, which I have here, about this road. Because what they didn't tell you is the new road, they're putting in a sewer line and a water line below that. And Stewart Engineering has done tests in July. Now, in July of last year, they invited select group of the community. They wouldn't invite Glenn, but they invited select people in the community, and William Sparrow was there, who told me, shut up and sit down. When I was giving my presentation, select people of the community in July of 2010, December 15th, and I told them, they asked, well, where are these burials? They're being kept secret because of your executive session. So I went up in the map and I showed them by Ted Farms Place and especially by the old Kalia Lions Club that there is an underground cavern there, that there are several wells. Those wells are the caves where my family is buried. So I told them. They put out a newsletter to the community that very week. Then they started 6 test drilling cores for this project. Okay. What the test cores say, according to their confidential reports with you're not being able to see and they're not showing up to tell you about, and this is why they don't want you to know, is that Stewart Engineering, in their own documents and their own scientist, Dr. Stephen Dollar, in my contested case hearing on July 26, have all mentioned there are karst, caves, and fissures. What does that mean? When they drill that 1,800-foot trench, they're going to break into all these caves. So when the big water comes, it's just going to go directly to the ocean nonstop. Unlike the retention dam with all that sand to filter out all the HEVA and heavy metals that currently exist on their multi-million-dollar lot for homes, oceanfront homes that they want so badly, this huge monstrosity that they're going to dig by is going to empty the water as if there was an open drain directly into the ocean, bringing all that heavy metal and heavy lead into the sea, where pregnant women swim with their babies, where people swim with their children, where the native cultural practitioner picks the limo, and the First Circuit Court judge says, Hoseko Ewa Inc., show Mr. Lee your long-term cumulative effects of pollution on his cultural practice, i.e. limu, invertebrates, and fish, is going to affect him. And they backed off and said no, but this is their way around. And I'll tell you how they go away around the public hearing process. By donating this land to the Parks Department, they're no longer under the scrutiny of the City Wastewater Management Department. We went there to DPP and to the 14th floor, and we talked to Walter, and he said, no, in this plan, nobody signed off on it. this is the most latest plan of 2010 on the phases that are going out here. Nobody signed from the wastewater treatment area on this whole thing. The head of the Parks Department, okay, this is the road that is being proposed. Okay, it's 45 feet in from the old road, which is going to be turned into this huge ditch. And what they're putting in 5 feet below the ground, they're putting in freshwater pipes, 18-inch, and they're also putting 10 feet under sewer lines. So who's checking the wastewater sewage that, by the way, is going to break into all these caverns where my family kupuna are kept? And if there's a break and it goes directly out into the sea, what about the First Circuit Court lawsuit that says you can't do that? They're circumventing the permitting process by hiding it under the Parks Department. And we talked to Dexter Liu, and he said, well, we're not interested in the sewer. We didn't sign off on the sewer or the water. All we're interested is in the road, because Joseco's offering to put this all in for free. How convenient. What does the city get? All free infrastructure. Okay, what do you get? You get to be kept out of this. There is no burial treatment plan, even though in April 14th of 2010, the OIBC, Oahu Island Burial Council, I showed them all this evidence and 7 locations of burial car system tubes with my family, naming names, who's in there. And they put out 8-0, a protective order saying, nobody can touch this whole area from the marina all the way down to here because Mr. Lee has family, Hawaiian, ancient Hawaiian royal family in these areas. However, Pua'aiu conveniently won't enforce the order. It's been 15 months and she won't enforce the order. Why? If she does, automatically they have to do a burial treatment plan. Okay? But it's really convenient. So I got OHA to put in for an archaeologist to prove that what I say is true. And hopefully online by October, we'll be doing digs to prove that it's true. Yes, John?
Well, if we want to get more involved and encourage others to get more involved, what's the best way we can help right now?
Well, that's a good question. I'm thinking of 2 strategies. One, I also asked OHA for, we did a massive search on all of this, and we've got all the facts and figures how Joseco's own professionals know about, they're subverting this. So I'm thinking of doing a lawsuit based on our clean water lawsuit that we did at Papipi Road and Kalo'i Gulch, saying you can't dump this directly into the ocean. This letter was finished, the draft was finished by Kai Markel. It goes to Mr. Namua, the CEO of OHA. Once he puts it out, I'm going to take that letter and put a letter to Native Hawaiian Legal Corp and ask for a lawsuit to enforce the First Circuit Court ruling on Joseco. Okay, that's one strategy. If for whatever reason Native Legal Corp doesn't, because I have standing in this entire coastal area as a cultural descendant, I'm in the process of lineal, and recognized in First Circuit Court as a Native Hawaiian practitioner of Limu. So I have standing anytime to get back into a lawsuit, but we may be able to do a class action lawsuit. If everybody is willing to get into it, because I automatically have standing, we can take the whole community of Ewa and jointly do a lawsuit saying this is a threat to public health and safety and are going around circumventing the process by using the Parks Department. And there's only one place in the Parks Department that deals with sewage, and that's facilities. So Tom Berg needs to look at this specific issue of where does facilities deal with wastewater and sewage? When was that given to them for a major project just because this is a developer? Yes, Glenn.
Mike, you know, they're moving pretty fast. 24/7 they're moving. As we can tell, people that go down How Bush, you can see how fast they're moving. Mm-hmm. Now, if they go in 45 feet Makai, which means they're encroaching into a public domain, which is that 3 parcel, Ted Farm, Lions Club, and Taylor Farm. And that's public domain now. They're going encroaching into those sites. And I wrote in last year in August, about a year ago, asking them, they have completed, Haseko has completed their golf course, Ho'akale, Ernie L's signature, and to comply with that agreement that they had signed with the Hanneman administration, that they would give the community 9 acres, which I mentioned, the 3 parcels, plus $1 million. And they say, oh no, we're working on something else. That's what the parks told me. And David Tonoy told me that, oh, don't worry, you know, you guys will get the $1 million. But then again, now they're moving pretty fast. They're encroaching into our public domain. And we'll be left with nothing from that 9 acres.
What happened is the Parks Department agreed to that encroachment. The reason why is they get free infrastructure because not only are they putting in the water and sewer, but they're also putting in concrete drains. So all of that goes in and they're paving the road for them. So what does the parks and the city get from it? Thousands of dollars of putting this in. What does Haseko get out of it? Circumventing the public hearing process, the doing a burial treatment plan and having an environmental assessment done by using the fact that they're a private entity working with the Parks Department outside of the wastewater management situation. They're using that to hide, and that's why they've not shown up here. They've given you old maps that go back to God knows, you know, since the beginning of time, and they refuse to discuss any of this to you because they don't want you to know any of this because lawsuits are going to be flying within the next month. They don't want that. And they don't want you to be empowered with the truth because if you have the truth, you know what to do. That's a roadmap right there. And now what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to get with the chairman of the Parks Department and call in all these parks people and say, when did we give you the authority for wastewater management? When did we give you the authority to do this out without our consent?
Mike, one last comment. The park as it is now, as you see it in that drawing, they have signed off on it. But we had met 10 years ago with the fishermen, with the beachgoers, and with the surfers. What we wanted to see in that master plan for How Bush. And they said, as I stated before, the way we conceptualized that beach park wasn't to their liking. That's why for 10 years, we've been in the dark as to what the city has been doing with the How Bush Park. Now they come up with a configuration that we park, you know, half a mile away to go to the beach. Plus, we don't have anything for ourselves. What about that area that we dedicated? You know, we had that ritual,
right.
The limo ritual.
Right.
The kava ceremony, right. It's not on there. Right. So did they circumvented our wishes as a cultural entity? Okay,
there's another more ominous plan that I may mention, that there's a huge development that is being taken place with Hawaiian Homes. They want OHA to partner with them, with Haseko, for the Kolo'i Gulch Drain, which you have not heard of. And the reason why is this is a master plan for development of huge Hawaiian homeland properties for commercial usage, but they can't do it without a drain system. But what's the big hookup here is my lawsuits in Kalo'i and Papipi forbid them to take all of that Pilau water and dump it directly. Now this is what Haseko did. For Kalo'i Gulch, they built a concrete drain 6 feet by 6 feet and put it underground, which I went at night, went on the property, walked in it, and they never expected somebody from the community to sue and win. They expected a done deal to take all this water in billions of gallons in one time and just dump it into the ocean. But then when we won, they got this huge drain and they can't take it anywhere. So they had to find, you got 2 things on their agenda. You got this 6 foot by 6 foot drain to carry all this water for future development to make their dreams come through, i.e. get the get. Where's the money? For all of this commercial development, not just in Ewa, but down that way, Kapolei side, hooked into Ewa. Okay, that's the master plan. So there are tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars riding on that drainage. Then you got that retention dam, which it was supposed to be temporary. Before, when they built that concrete drain at Papipi Road, then it was drill, baby, drill, build those 20 houses or 40 houses and sell them $1 million a pop, built up 10 feet over the horizon where the Great Wall of Ewa is, and they'd look over. So you got this beautiful vista for $1 million. So you got all this money pushing and driving what's really going on, and you've been kept out of all of it.
Wait, Mike, when you say you've been kept out of all of it, I want to share this with you folks. 11 years I've worked for our local state senator, Willis Farrell, for 6, Rita Cabanilla for 3, Representative and Rep Pine for 2. That's 11 years I've been in the thicket, and I'm supposed to know things. I'm now in the city council, and I'll admit this, to be honest with you. Department of Facilities Maintenance, Department of Design Construction, Department of Planning and Permitting, and we've just heard Department of Parks and Rec. The whole thing is to confuse. You never know who to go to. And so Evelyn Sousa on staff here, she's going to tell you the story. He pulled up a map that is dated to 2010. I couldn't get the map. Our staff couldn't get the map. Tell us what you did and what you got.
For weeks now, we were preparing for you. That's the way Councilman Berg works. Whether it's pro or con, he wants the truth. I am so glad I came today, and thank you, Mr. Mike. Even the departments that usually are very receptive to a phone call, hello, this is Evelyn, this is Celeste from Councilman Berg's office, very ingratiating, very cooperative, except with this. Because if I went, and Celeste and I, for a week now, have been looking for the latest maps to Joseco, and I'm not pro or con because that's not my job, but I'll tell you the facts. They gave us the map that you have in your hand today. That's what we presented to you. 2000. Mr. Lee here has a map, March 2010, John Q. Public, but he has a mission. Obviously, somebody's not telling the council person, who obviously is very vocal here, the truth. And
well, that's not all. There is a more secret document that's even more secret than that we cannot even make copies of. So we were taken into a room. My goodness, you think this was CIA. We were taken into a room where we were told you cannot make copies of it, but you can make mental notes. You know. So it's like, okay, so this plan, which is phase 2, and there's a phase 3, it's like, well, we can't give this to the public because it hasn't been finalized yet, but it has all the reports of Stewart Engineering and what they found that they will never reveal to anybody. And that's why they don't want anybody to access it. So we went through this, and I have a photographic memory, and we put it all down. And the bottom line is they admit in all these reports that they don't want you to see that there are karst, caves, and fissures all over this place, which means that that water is going to go directly into the ocean, not filtered, if they move it from the present site that's worth $20 million to Joseco. That's their motivation for shutting you guys down and using the system. Now, why does the city and state allow this? It comes down to kala. And what it is because Joseco promises jobs, promises goods, promises to hire your cousin to do the landscaping or to put in the piping or to put in whatever, what does that do? It brings in tax revenues. So the state, when I sued for Papipi Road, because they were going to destroy our limo out there, I took all of that documentation to the city and House, state representative, chairman of each division, and I plunked it on their desk and said, don't pass any resolution on submerged ceded lands on this project, because I'm in court. I'm in First Circuit Court. What did they do? They thanked me very much, went and passed it, and in the language it says, we know this is going to court, but we pass it anyway. We give a rubber stamp to this project. And they got shut down because we won. They didn't expect we'd win. But this is the way the politicians are moving against you guys, because you eat the limo, your babies swim in the water, pregnant women swim in the water. The surfers, our local surfers are out there 24/7. Our fishermen are catching fish 24/7. Who is going to suffer with the cumulative effects of lead in our limu, in our haukiuki, in our opihi, in our crab and our fishing, and then swimming around through our skin. This is why the health and safety of your children, pregnant women, are at risk. And that's why you have to get involved. Because if we can stop them as a community, this is a template for all other ahupua'as to mimic and follow the same thing, is to step up to the plate, get involved, and demand the answers. What is Parks Department doing with wastewater management for sewage? And why is that being kept from public hearing and public testimony? Where do they get off hiding this stuff from the people where your own representatives cannot get it? Okay? And this is putting you at risk. There is a federal Clean Water Act that slammed the airport for $90 million. Where do they get off putting your kids and you and the surfers and the fishermen in danger and destroying what our family and many other Hawaiian families have, which is our cultural practice, which we pass on to the next generation? It's hewa, it's wrong, it's criminal, it's problematic, and it's illegal. So it's got to stop now. But how can you stop it if you don't have the roadmap? Because they don't want you to know. Because then you can make a plan, man.
I couldn't get that, Mike. Yeah. I couldn't get that map.
Yeah. So how did I? I had to work within the state system. And it was only through the state system. I won't go into any details because it's the state system. But only through the state versus city could we have the clout to get into these closed hearings that the book cannot be copied. But the state is you guys. So why are you being kept out from what belongs to you? Because it was paid by your tax dollars. And the system is supposed to protect you, and they're keeping you out of protecting yourself. And that's wrong. That is really wrong. And this developer, oh, don't get me started. I just went over with a contested case hearing with them. And till there's a last blood in my body, I am going to fight them to the end.
If I can say, Mike, I just want to fill you in on this. Having the luxury of working for a politician, I got to go to some of these meetings and these luncheons and take a bus tour and go check things out. And they put the onus on him. And they says, well, if you got family, if you got burials, if you got Evie there, that's your problem. You need to tell me, show me, put it on a map. Do you think it'll be there tomorrow if you tell us?
It's going to be gone. In fact, they've done core sampling. They want to get rid of that so fast. I'll tell you, when they dug up my grandmother, my fifth great-grandmother, they dug her up and put her in a box, and she remained in a box for 10 years and is still in a box. She's a high ali'i, Kamehameha III's mother, wife of Kamehameha I, treated hewa. Hewa. She was young when she gave birth and died to my third great-grandfather. And only now, since I went and triggered the OIBC making a lineal claim, they want to get rid of her. They want to hide her away now. All of a sudden, there's impetus, get rid of her. And so I'm fighting that at OHA. I asked OHA to take possession of her. They've got possession of her. Now Pua'ala comes with Bill Ayla saying, we want her back. And I'm saying, hey, I'm not going to make it easy for you. I'm the cultural descendant that's recognized, the only person recognized, and you, by law, supposed to consult with me. They never did. They're trying to, again, go around the typical same old, and spirit her away to shut this down. They're the shutdown crew between Haseko and the state and even the city. Because I'll tell you, when we went to the third hearing of Kalo'i Gulch to stop them, the last person to talk was the head of DPP now. And one of the councilmen asked him, is it true that Haseko got all their information for the environmental impact statement from Haseko? Not cultural practitioners, not the community, but Haseko said, hey, yeah, here it is.
From Haseko's archaeologists.
Right, from Haseko. Okay. And the man stood there, and I watched him, and he took a minute. And I said, oh, we know the answer to this one if it takes a minute. It's either yes or no. It took a minute, and then he said, no. I took him to court, The answer was, under oath now, because it's not under oath, so they can lie through their teeth. They don't go to jail. We took them to court. The answer, I made sure, was in that question, and they said, yes. They got all of their information from Joseco for the environmental impacts. They lied to everybody because they weren't under oath. And I swear that the city council, when they have these testimonies, should put people under oath for perjury, because that's what Joseco did, and that's what the city did, and they put you at risk. And that's unacceptable on any level. Yes?
Your grandmother's bones was found by a homeless person.
That was employed by you.
That's right. The bones that Mike's grandmother was found the other side of Kiko Point. And they brought it to the attention of the...
Now, let me tell you
whole burial concert was his great-grandma.
Let me tell you who is buried out there, because people don't know. And how can you protect treasures if they're hidden? You don't know, so you don't know. Just like the limo. How do you know if this limo is going to cure cancer or help you if you got AIDS? If you don't know, you don't know. So let me tell you, because I registered it with the Oahu Island Burial Council and who's buried out there. Kuali'i, great king of Oahu, lived to 172 years old, my 8th great-grandfather of the Maveke Lakona line of the Lords of Lehui. His head is buried out there with his opu'u, Niho Palawa. His head is so sacred with his teeth. The stories were that they took his iwi and burned them, and the ashes they mixed with poi and they fed to the chiefs. That is correct, but they didn't do it to his head. His head is out there. Kahunali's father is buried out there with his red ahu'ula. That's a red feather cape. In the war of Kalaua'u between my other grandfather, Kalani Opu'u, is called Po'olua. Kamehameha III had two fathers, Kalani Kupule and Kamehameha I, which was his biological father. But Ka'eo Kulani, the king of Kauai, is buried out there, Ka'umuali'i's father. Ka'umuali'i's youngest son, the prince of Kauai, chamberlain to my fourth great-grandfather, is also buried out there, Mikahela Kikau Onohe, who owned the royal patent of 43,250 acres of Honouliuli and 2,010 acres of Pu'uloa Ewa. It is in the testimonies that they were buried out at Waipouli cave there. Many queens are buried there. Kalola Kumokoa's mother from Kauai is buried there. Kaomi was buried there. So the list, there are 7 that I identified, their genealogies, everything what's down there. And you know, you're not going to dig for 15 feet of solid coral to put bones. You're going to put them in a cave that already pre-exists with shelves. And the ki'is, we have ki'is of pele, ki'is of ku, ki'is of hina, wooden, worth millions of dollars that are out there. And we have claimed in our contested case against Joseco in 2009 and 2010 that they broke into this cave system, took the stuff, and they've never denied it, ever. They've never denied it. Because if they do, it goes under RICO, and they get federal on their, you know where. So Joseco's not dumb. They've never denied that they've broken in and taken my family's funerary objects. And they won't sue me. Please, Joseco, sue me so I can get the right of subpoena, to subpoena all your records, to subpoena all your employees, to subpoena everybody in sight to prove what I'm saying. So this is a continuing effort that you must be involved in and you must be aware of. And they're trying to shut it down, both the state, the city, and Joseco.
Mike, I want to know, how can we right now get involved and stop them from doing any more damage?
Show up to his committees and to get together with Mr. Berg and plan out a roadmap of strategies to go to the hearings and ask the city council guys the tough questions of planning and permitting, that these guys have found a loophole to get around all of this. On my part, I'm working with OHA, and they've been very helpful because they sustained my lawsuits, and they paid for all these lawsuits. That, you know, go to Haunani-a-Poliona. She's your representative. Please give me help so I can sue them. If all the native Hawaiians in this room, and even if you're not, go to Oha and call up Kahuoaliikupunaowaipouli, and those who are watching on Olelo right now, please call up Haunani and say, this is important not only to Ewa, but to all the developments on all areas of the island. This will give us political impetus to fight back in court, because in court, it's the final say.
Real quick, we have a committee on the 30th of August, Parks, full agenda. I believe it's the 16th or 17th of September, full council. The next meeting, please go to my website and I'll e-blast everybody that signs up. We're going to put at our next Parks Committee, you can show up, you can give documentation, whatever you like. Let's get everybody else in the City Council and the Mayor's administration, and we'll trump all the other directors, we'll trump the system, and we're going to thread this needle. So we'll have a Parks, Cultural Affairs Committee meeting. Phil's looking up the date for us before we adjourn today. He should have the date and time. Usually it's 10:30 on a Tuesday, so probably end of September. We'll have it, open forum. I'll put the only thing on the agenda. We could talk about this for 2 hours. And what we'll do is we're going to hold everyone accountable, including our Ewa Neighborhood Board, in good faith. I'll tell you why. Because in good faith, if I could just share this real quick. Honouliuli wastewater treatment plant. City and county took away that light industrial park, and they bought it for some $26, $27 million, 48 acres, without a public hearing, never on the Ewa Neighborhood Board, no one knew. City and County of Honolulu says, we're going to expand Honouliuli wastewater treatment plant, and it's going to be in Kalailoa. 60 acres they were after. When Hunt Development took a 499-acre lease in Kalailoa, City never reported to our community. Never came to our community, never told us, oh, by the way, we're going to get rid of 2,700 jobs, and we're going to take your light industrial park that we worked very hard on to bring to fruition, and we're taking it from you. So when we're talking about what happens, the city neighborhood board system should be championing. So we have John Goldner here on the board. You have the authority, John, to recommend a subject matter as a board member, put it to your chair, and they should put it on the agenda, right? So what we're going to do is going to do this twofold. We're going to try it at the City Hall in my committee, yeah? And then we're going to try it at our neighborhood board level through John. I hope he'll be a conduit. Anyone else want to entertain with Mr. Lee here? I just want to share with you on this. Mr. Lee didn't explain to you his vision for us. This man could really do something else. This man, if he really wanted to, in my opinion, he could stop the development. If he wanted to, he could end the development. But what he's proposed to Haseko, at least from what I've heard, is he says, you know what? This is rich in history for our area, and I'd like you to touch on that, Mike. Mike has a vision that's a win-win. Win for the developer, win for the residents, win for the cultural ancestry that he has, and you didn't touch on that, Mike. You should tell us what your vision is.
Thank you. It's really not mine. I cannot take credit for it. Mr. Kikahuna, 100% Hawaiian man who was lame, back in the 50s said our Hawaiian sites are being destroyed, and he mapped all of them. It's a monumental work, and he said we need it for our future generations, for our children, and he said even for the visitors that come and the Malahinis who do not know. And my vision for this area was, why did Haseko destroy the Opai'ula ponds? Why didn't they build around them? Why in their master plan, they said they were not only going to protect the Hawaiian cultural sites, but they were going to enhance them. They blitzed 400 of them, including a stone that showed you how to get to Lanai by Papakilohoku, which I'm a Papakilohoku, knowing 3,000 Hawaiian stars and 256 Hawaiian star constellations, and the 6,000 kaunas of my family genealogical chant, the Kumulipo. That was blitzed, blown away. And what I wanted to do was to have a big heiau, a white heiau called Waipouli, where my ancestors would be put in a repository there, a huge white heiau. And that would be to breach the hewa that was done to them, and to clean up that the most dirtiest beach on Oahu, which is the most sacred site, which is right out front where that marina is, is a travesty. It has the highest ali'is ever in the history of Oahu. It has the burial caves and the birth caves there. And my vision was, why not help our people, both culturally as Hawaiians, to understand and appreciate and value the culture and the sites that are there, number one. Number two, to enhance the opportunity of jobs for people locally as a hub destination for people in our community, in our outer communities and ahupua'as who want to learn, and also for the Malahini visitor that wants to come here as a designation place, as Kealakekua Bay is, because this is undoubtedly the most sacred spot on Oahu, and people don't know it. So why leave it a dung heap instead of treating it as a wahikapu, a sacred place to not keep hidden, but to expand and increase the opportunity of abundance for all, for wealth, health, happiness, peace, joy, and love in mind, body, and spirit.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you. Your vision or collectively of a vision, here's the thing. Haseko has said, well, you know what? You could take your vision and you could put it in my, what is it, a 77 acres?
Yeah.
Or 29, what is the acreage?
Well, it's smaller than that.
Yeah.
20-something.
20. Cultural park where they're going to grow native Hawaiian plants, and
right.
said, well, let's just pretend your 7 sites of burials of Ewi, and let's just pretend they're going to be in these 29 acres, and we'll just put a marker up here, and you can pretend they were here. Am I correct in saying that's the solution?
It's, you know, in my contested case hearing, Nancy Maeda, the vice president of Hoseko, called me out of BLNR and said, we'll put you on the board, just drop the suit. We'll put you on the board, okay? We'll drop the suit, just put you on the board. I said, I'm going to take it all the way to the state Supreme Court because this is family, and what you did is heva. And I don't care what you say and what you try to put to make up for what you did. You haven't stepped up to the plate and given us our family funerary objects and a ki'i that you took from my family's caves. And as the kahu, or keeper, recognized by other kahus, you did heva to my family. There has to be a rededication ceremony because you pilau'd the place. You desecrated the sacred puli umi kapu that is on. Now a kapu kapu ceremony has to take place to undo the heva that you've done. And you have not even addressed it, you hid it, you pushed it aside, and you've done this consistently all along the place. You haven't stepped up and done the right thing. Yes.
I just want to touch upon just more sacredness about this Ewa sites. And I used to work for the Holt family. I had the opportunity to just work with some of the cultural advisors there and get paperwork on this whole Ewa Plains, because I grew up down here. I'm 3rd generation. And King Kamehameha II, his summer home was out at Pu'uloa Point. And Honouliuli, that was the largest site of Hawaiians out of all the islands. All the islands. So every time you drive past Honouliuli, just remember how sacred that place really was.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yes.
You said deposit, right? Redeposit, right? What you're saying just for the ones that was removed, yes? You're not saying to remove.
No, we want them to stay in
place.
We're fighting because they chose to be here.
Right.
They didn't want to be anywhere stuck in the mountain or stuck in a repository, which Shipti, State Historic Preservation, is trying to kidnap my grandmother and take her basically without my say-so. And by law, they're supposed to consult me. That's another lawsuit. But, you know, this is the way the state works here. It says you have all this protection, and then they do everything to shut it off. And then they say, well, if you don't like our interpretation, sue us. And go up to your money tree, cash out your stocks and bonds, and spend $250,000 and take us to court. And how many people can do that? They know it. So they automatically shut it down by saying, you don't like it, sue us. We're going to do it anyway. We're not going to follow the laws that are on the book. Make us. That's how arrogant the system is. And it's got to change because it's your system and you have to demand for the change.
So the clarity is there's a redeposit for your ohana.
Yes, in the place that where it was taken out.
Yes. However, the Ewi that is there now, we leave it there in place.
Well, right now, what Hoseko has forced me to do is I have to prove that they are there, or they won't protect them. Now, the OIBC accepted all my documents, my certified documents, and my testimony in executive session. I asked that executive session under Section 6E to be taken away and let the general public see all the information. And Pu'ala'iu, the administrator of State Historic Preservation, said no, because you have the specific burial location. So I said, redact it. Take it out. That's only 1%. Let the 99% be looked by the general public. She said, no, we won't do that. Why? What do they fear? What are they afraid of? Okay, what they've put me in a position is I've had to go to OHA. OHA's now is in the process of hiring an archaeologist to do digs to prove that what I say is there. Okay, so they put me in a process that is a no win-win scenario. I have to now go and do that. So what happens when Kuali'i's head comes up? We're just going to leave it there and let any raider from online stuff to sell it? You know, we have to have a burial treatment plan. We have to have a security plan. We have to have all of this because unintended consequences fall on the keeper. So, you know, this is a well thought out process, but at the same time, through another cultural practitioner, my grandmother in Akaku came to her and said that it was my grandmother's wish, the Iwi Kupuna, the mother of Kamehameha III, biological mother, that all her family be reposited in this one heiau. So it would be protected forever because, as you know, the raising of the water that has taken place will destroy all our family funerary objects and everything. So to protect it in perpetuity in the area that they wish to walk over to the gods at night has to be out there. And that's what I'm fighting for.
So we're looking at Section 106 then?
Correct.
Thank you.
To make everything short as this, anytime you build on the ocean front, they're afraid because you're going to run into the Iwi. It's not only here, it's all in every island. And the further you go past the marina, it's going to be worse yet. You're going to have more bones, more Iwis you're going to run into. And if the marina should come in, and I might forget, they will have to bring back the Opaiula Pond. They can never break the mouth of the marina without bringing back the Opaiula Pond because they cover it up prior. And it's an agreement with the state that they bring this Opai back. Ever had a lot of Opaiula. And you know, fishermen, no more Opai on the ocean, no more fish. You know, that tells you got a healthy ocean when you see that food chain.
We tried to do a settlement with Hoseko to bring back the Opaiula, to respect my family's iwi, to do the cultural right practice. We even reached out to Kekaulike, Princess Kekaulike Kuananakoa, and asked her, as the highest Nona Ali'i, to pay her the respect, to let her know and to ask if she would want to step in on this. And Hoseko's attorney at the end wrote a nasty letter to 14 people, including all the Board of Trustees at OHA, saying Mr. Lee is trying to extort my clients. Extortion. Written it in 2009 to the board and all the board members and several other agencies that Mr. Lee is an extortionist. I have not asked for 1 penny in any of my lawsuits. I've asked them to do the right thing. But they choose to do this. And guess what? In my contested case with Hoseko about them breaking into my family's burial sites, that letter was part of the 337 exhibits I brought in and was excluded because it was very prejudicial against Hoseko. It will make Hoseko look bad. Duh! What do you think they have been doing? They've done everything they can to shut down anything that is good and true within the community. Their actions ring and sing loudly. And when we've taken them to task and put documents on the table and said, put up or shut up, they won't stand and say, yeah, that's my letter, leave it in there. And I'm not afraid of bringing it out. Why do I bring out my stuff in all the documents and they won't? They won't even show up here. And they can't afford to? Give me a break.
Mike, You know, in the early 90s, Haseko, to the goodness, when they first came to Ewa Beach, the goodness of their heart, they took members of the Hawaiian community into the sites. And they gave us a view of the features, the landscape, and to see how much, artifacts was still there. There were numerous artifacts. I think since the 12 years or 20 years they've been in a community, they have desecrated, because all you see now is houses. I can pinpoint where, a house used to be, or a ahu used to be, an altar used to be. It's not there anymore. So, Haseko he's just bad about it. International companies just bad how they treat communities and cultural, things. So, I hate to see, how much is left, because, they were numerous, and they were all tied to the Pico up in Whitmore City, Whitmore Village.
Haseko, what it's done is not outside the norm. The 2002 case with Hokulia on the Big Island, developer, multi-billion-dollar situation, they were doing the same thing. They were backfilling underground caverns with bones in them. And the state, through OHA, had to go at night to find the evidence that they were trying to cover up all of this stuff. So there is a precedent of developers taking the shortcuts and the state being complicit with those shutdown procedures, because they don't want any stoppage and to do the right thing, because it costs them kala, money, to stop the process. And they will destroy anybody that stands in their way. Destroy anybody that stands in their way. Yes?
In regards to different companies testing down here, everything goes through the EPA. And how are we supposed to trust a government?
It doesn't go through the EPA. EPA has to be triggered with a specific charge that can be verified, at least credibly. What's really bad here is State Historic Preservation's archaeologists, that when my grandmother's Edie were dug up and taken away, spirited away, they're now working for Haseko, both of them. Hello? Do you see a connection here? By the way, when they documented her 6-inch niho palawa and her 5-inch niho palawa, her beads, her kupe'e wrists, hundreds of artifacts that were with it, they put it on a DV disc and buried it in the Parks Department. It's not at Shipti in their library where it should be, because it's your tax dollars that paid for all of this. It's still in the Parks Department, and I've gone and testified at the state about this. I brought it out in all my hearings that all my grandmother's information is kept from the public in the Parks Department. I went down with Klein Markel, saw the head of the Parks Department, and she said, we don't know what it's doing here. It's not supposed to be here. It should be at Shipti. It's still there. When I started this journey in 2001, and I heard about what happened to this poor Ali'i, not knowing it was my own grandmother, I went down with Phil McGillivray, the head of the Coast Guard Science Division of Homeland Security. He's head of all the Parks Department on the federal side. And we went, boom, right into DLNR, Parks Department, State Parks. We saw the same lady, and she said, sorry, it's only for lineal people can take a look at it. And I said, what's lineal? Yeah, I'm really dumb back then. And so it's been a process of when people tell me no, I don't take no for no. I say, well, tell me what's yes, and I'll get it for you. Okay, whatever it is, I'll find it. I'll use my cultural practice that I was taught, and I'll find the documents. So that's what needs to be done. But it really, you guys are the ever-ready Energizer bunny out there. If we, when you got a big elephant or a big dinosaur, the only way to take them down is everywhere. All feet, all trunks, tail, everything. So the concerted effort has to be everywhere. I'm going to try to do a lawsuit. If I fail, then I'll come back to you guys and ask for a class action lawsuit, because I have standing up the yin-yang here. And we find a way. We have to go to OHA and let OHA know, call OHA. You don't even have to go down. Just give them a call. Ask for Trustee Apoliona, who is the person in this district. And they come up for running for election next year. So, you know, whatever it takes to get the job done, do it. Nibble on every side. Take them down every way you can. That's my suggestion.
Well done, Mike. Thank you. We're going to continue this conversation on the 28th of September. So if you don't get e-blasts from me once a week, go to councilmanberg.com, get on my email list. You'll get the hearing notices. We'll keep you abreast. 28th September, 10:30. Agenda item will be this, and it will be the only item I'll put on the agenda. We'll talk about this till they kick us out of the room. So we want to make sure that all the parties that have domain and jurisdiction on this, that they all meet at the same place. Because like I said, when Evelyn and Celeste and I, in my time as well, tried to get these maps, tried to get documents, we were given one department, another department, another department. We finally didn't even get them. So thank you for sharing with that updated map. That's priceless. So with that said, we got about an hour left. What I'd like to do is, Glenn O'Milder, are you the president of the Ewa Beach Community Association? If you are, you're on the agenda, because what we're going to do is give you the microphone and you can hammer out what it is that you folks would like to talk about. If you'd like to hook up with me on something else, if you want to leave right now, you can, but email me, get a hold of me, go to my website, engage. I'd like to talk rail before we leave today, if you don't mind. I got some things I'd like to tell you all about the rail.
Just beyond my reach, not beyond my sight. Hope for a generation. Hope for a generation. Just beyond my reach, not beyond my sight. Hope for a generation.